All right. Good afternoon, everybody. This is our 24-25 external evaluator training. It is mandatory for all 21st Century Community Learning Center external evaluators. Um, it will be a lot of the same type of things, so we'll kind of go a little faster through it. But the new things and things that we have noticed, and that we want to make sure to give emphasis to, we're gonna kind of give it a more in-depth explanations for it, and things that just we saw last year. So, like last year, we will have some additional trainings available. I think we decided at the earlier training that we're going to do an office hours sometime beginning of December, late November. One of those, I think late November is going to be Thanksgiving. So I think it's going to be early November, early December. But Linda Williams will send you that date and I will send it to all the grantees also. Um, and that'll just be kind of a question and answer session, y'all, whatever questions you have. And it'll also be a space where y'all can kind of ask each other questions and, get tips and tricks or whatever. We want to create a space for y'all to be able to share information. And we'll talk about one of the spaces that we created in a little while in this PowerPoint, but I want to at least talk about that first training or first office hours, which is not a training. We won't have a PowerPoint. It will literally just be a, hey, I got a question about this. Hey, I got a question about this. You'll be able to ask me questions, ask other external evaluators questions, and it will just be a safe space to ask. But that'll be our first thing that we'll have coming up. And then we'll have a PD that we will do before the mid-year reports are due, and that'll be open to the grantees and external evaluators. And then we will probably do another office hours in between there. And if you need external easy report training at some point, shoot us an email. We'll do that. I don't want to do a whole nother one because we did one last year. And I can send you that link. We'll send out their link later on in the year. But no need to recreate a whole nother one. But we will have an office hour to kind of help you pull reports or whatever if needed at that point. So I'm Erica Rucker, the 21st Century Program Coordinator from Truman Pierce Institute. I am kind of the middle person, or TPI is kind of the middle people between the State Department and the grantees. So the State Department is actually the 21st Century grantee from the federal government, because it's a federal fund. And the grantees that we know, well, we know them as grantees, they're actually sub-grantees through the state of Alabama. So they have an RFA process that they go through, obviously, and they have 3%, up to 3% of their budget is supposed to be dedicated to external evaluation. Up to 3% doesn't necessarily have to be 3%. That's just an up to. And we asked them to do 1-year contracts with y'all. So the purpose is to provide all the 21st Century grantees and the program external evaluators with updates, information, and resources to successfully complete the evaluation requirements for fiscal year 25. No, now I end up talking about something before I get to it if I keep talking. So the objectives for the external evaluation is to understand the importance of evaluation, visit your evaluation plan, examine the evaluation requirements, review student, parent, and teacher surveys, and then provide recommendations and best practices. And we will have some samples of some final reports so you can see some good recommendations and some good final reports. Not to say that there aren't other good final reports that have been submitted. These are just the first 5 that we saw that were good, and we just slapped them in a box folder for y'all to see. So our agenda for today is we're going to talk about the evaluation plan because that'll be the first thing that'll come up in December. It's due December 15th. So with that, you'll also have to get them information for the continuation application. So we'll talk about that. You'll have to turn in your conflict of interest, your APAS observation form. We'll talk about GEPR 2.0, the evaluation plan, the logic model, and the timeline. Then we'll talk about the mid-year report. We're going to talk about the action plan that's incorporated in the mid-year report, the areas of improvement, action steps, responsible parties, progress, and the strategies and next steps. And then for updates, we're going to talk about what's new coming with cohort 26. They used to be named for the number of cohorts that we have. So our current cohorts are 16 and 17 because those are the 16th and the 17th cohorts of 21st century that we've had in Alabama. But this year we are changing. So this year the cohorts will start to be labeled based on the fiscal year that they're funded. So the next cohort will be for fiscal year 26, meaning it's coming up. And that will be the name of their cohort 26. So the first thing we're going to talk about is the continuation application, and it's the first thing that is due for the grantees coming up, aside from the final report that should have been turned in either September 30th or October 31st, based on if you asked for an extension. And so the grantees are going to need that signed 23-24 final report to turn in with their continuation application. And they're going to need the fall 24, so this season, signed observation form. And that's due November the 15th. So if you have not done your fall observation by November the 15th, and they can put a placeholder in Cognia for it until they get it done. But again, they're looking to have it done by before they go on Christmas break. So just be mindful of that, that when you go and you do the observations, that you go ahead and take the form with you, fill it out right then, even if, you generally make it look nicer than that. But you add signature lines at the bottom of the forms. There should be two, which we'll talk about in a minute. But you have to add signatures lines for you and for either the program director or the site director. Should we have known the deadline before today? Nope. Nope. Continuation application, the only way you would have known the deadline is if your grantee would have let you know. And they are kind of just finding out the deadline based on some trainings that we just did. We've done a lot of in-person PD in the last 2 months. So we're kind of just working our way through it. What we did in the earlier session, we had some of the State Department, all of the State Department people were on the training. So you got to meet our new 21st Century Program Director, who is Amanda Ryland. And she spoke a little bit about her being new in the role. She started around July. July, because I met her during Mecca Conference. And then we have two new staff people, Kelly and Carla, and then we still have Alicia with us, who's been with us for about 3 years now. So brand new people at the State Department, new 21st century regulations that came out last year. So just updates and changes that we're kind of working through with 21st century. So the other thing that's going to be due, and I think the date that Linda Williams put out was December 30th. There'll be dates at the end of this, so don't worry. And we'll send out this PowerPoint and the recording and all the forms by next week. Give us till next week, just because this is Thursday and we're still working on this late at night. So conflict of interest forms, the forms have not changed. It's going to be the same form that you've done before, just with a new date on it. But I wanted to make sure that I pulled the verbiage straight from the cohort 17 RFA about the conflict of interest. So the external evaluator must be an individual, agency, organization, etc., with no vested interest in the 21st century program. Excluded from external evaluation are family members of the applicants and/or family members of partners, employees of applicants, and/or employees of applicants' partners. That verbiage changed a little bit in the latest RFA for cohort 17. So that's why I wanted to stick it in here, because it did kind of knock out some external evaluators that we had in 21st century because they had switched jobs or whatever. So just be mindful of that it wasn't just that person who couldn't be an external evaluator, but also their wife couldn't be, their significant other couldn't be an external evaluator also. So we'll send those forms to you next week. What is program evaluation? So it's examining the program's proposed goals, versus the actual implementation and program success. So we're looking for you to go out and look at the program's strengths and weaknesses and what worked and what didn't work, and kind of give them some recommendations, some valuable recommendations for how they can make their program better. So the recommendations that you provide for program improvement, you're going to have to learn about 21st century to do that. So we won't get into that right like in this training, but I will say that if you want more information about 21st century, the first place for Alabama 21st century would be to go to our YouTube page. There's a link to it on our website, but it's just Alabama 21 CCLC at YouTube. That's the YouTube link. It's the page name. So you can go there and you'll see all of our PD that has been recorded. And you can kind of go through that to see some of their things. And I mean, some of it is specialized. Last year, every month we had Y for Y come on and do training based on different things that our grantees needed help with, service learning, behavior, just different 21st century things that had to be done. Dr. Bird said, well, we supposed to have it done an observation before November 15th. That's based on your timeline and your grantee's timeline. I sent an email a couple of weeks ago that said, and it was based on somebody asking the question, if you've already been their external evaluator, which they're in their second and third year, you had the flexibility for if you wanted to go out and do their fall observation starting in August. If you want to go the first couple of weeks of school, you can. That'll give you a good comparison to if they've improved, if you see them at the beginning of the school year versus the middle of the school year when you do a second observation. But it's not that you have to wait for our training to go out and do the observation. We have not changed the sections for the NIOS that you have to complete. It's still going to be the overall and the pick one. I am specifying, and I'll talk about that later, that you go out and you're there at the least 2 hours, that you are on site for 2 hours. You need to be there to see their dismissal from school, to see that them welcoming the students into after school care, and you need to see at least a couple of children leave. In a 2 hour span, you will see that if you when you are observing a program. Good question, Dr. Bird. All right, so why external evaluation? So you're going to provide a objective third-party reports. Again, like the conflict of interest said, you have nothing to do with this grant. You did not help them write it. You are not an existing partner. You're not a former staff member. You're not on the Board of Education for the LEA that they serve. You are completely external, and you can provide a objective report based on what you see when you go in the programs, based on the data that's in the user report, based on the surveys, based on a whole bunch of data points that we will talk about a little bit later. You're going to compile this final report. Earlier, I said that the final report was very similar to an executive summary for a nonprofit. So you're basically saying, hey, in this year, this is what they've done. This is the progress that they've made towards their objectives that they put in the grant. And I'm going to put it in one package for everybody to see or stakeholders to see. And I'm going to put it in a bowl and wrap it up and make it pretty. Same thing for a final report. That's why we've been, kind of pushing, hey, make it colorful, put some pictures in there, put some other things in there, because it needs to be appealing, not just for us to read and for the State Department to read, but for their stakeholders to read. A principal is not going to read a document where they can't flip through and every couple of pages see pictures of kids that they know, seeing them have a good time and do different activities that they know will better their students. So you're going to provide recommendations for program improvement for the 21st century grantees. You're going to provide a progress report to the Department of Education to let them know, because you'll be observing them and you'll be looking at all these things. So not only is that providing an executive summary for stakeholders, but for the State Department too. They're grantors. You're going to increase accountability for taxpayers' funds. I mean, we're all tax-paying people, so we want to make sure that we have accountability for that, and that's part of the RFA process, that they have to have an external evaluator, but we want to make sure that it's not just checking the box. We want to be able to improve technical assistance. So things that you notice in their program, we are reading it, and the State Department is reading it, and we're deciding, hey, well, I see this in a couple of programs. Let's offer them PD on this particular topic because we noticed that it's a trend with the grantees that they need help with this. And then you're going to provide, and then we will provide targeted professional development. Okay. And they can do it on the grantee level too. So when you go out and you do an observation, you're going to pull, everybody has to have done the NIOSH training at least once. You do not have to go back and do it if you've completed it previously, but if you have not completed it, you have to complete it. And the forms for the NIOSH observation are on their website. We also will send them to you when Linda Williams sends all the information to you next week, but they're not listed on our website because it's their proprietary information. So just be mindful of that. Also be mindful, there's not signature lines on there. You will have to add those. And that just, if you just want to write on the bottom, hey, program director and external evaluator, and you sign next to it and they sign next to it and y'all date it, I'm fine with that. But those lines need to be added because again, I said these have to be uploaded for their continuation application, and they also get uploaded for compliance monitoring. So when they upload them, the State Department is looking for those signatures. So it won't just be us sending it back saying, hey, you need to make this correction, you need to sign this. It will be a lot of times it was the State Department sending them to us, letting us know that it was missing that and they needed to be added because we hadn't looked at them by the time they upload them. Um, so just be mindful of that. Be mindful of they are stricter on funding stuff. So if that's something that they can't get from you, last year we had a lot of problems with when we sent it back and we asked for corrections to be made or things like that, and we gave a deadline and then the deadline passed and we didn't hear anything. So if that's the case, if the grantee is going to be penalized, the next thing that's going to happen is going to be a trickle down effect, but you're going to be barred from doing external evaluation because they have to make sure that they're doing all that they have to do for compliance. We don't want to make an extra thing for them to do that they can't provide because external evaluators supposed to provide it, especially when you're paid by federal dollars. So the NIOSH sections that are required, same one from previous years, we're requiring the overall program ratings and impression. And then you choose one from the green box. So you can choose arrival times, transition times, homework time, informal social time, activity time, and pickup time. But when you're doing the overall, and this is why I say that you should be on site for no less than 2 hours, I'm expecting for you to see all of these other things in green while you're rating the overall program ratings and impression. So I'm expecting for you to be there during arrival time to see what happens when the students get there. Do they all go in the lunchroom and there's only one staff person there, so they're out of ratio? That's something that you can see when you're doing programming, and you can make recommendations to speak to that they need more staff during that time. That's something that we can't see when we do monitoring. We only come a certain amount of times. So that's something that you can speak to in your report and your observation form that you fill out could be a tool that they use to give to someone else in their organization or LEA to say, hey, we need more people in the beginning because we're out of ratio. So we want you to see the arrival time. We want you to see the transition from either them going from snack to classroom or from the classroom to the gym, some transition time. We want you to see homework time. And what I mean when you come in the program, you should be seeing the arrival. You should see them walking to the lunchroom or wherever they have snack. You should see them going from the snack place to their classroom. You should go in a classroom at that point, see some homework time, then you go to another classroom, see informal social time, then you go to another classroom and see an activity or see a STEM lesson or a special, and then you see pickup. Your activities could be different from that, but you see what I'm saying? Like, I want you to stay there at least 2 hours so that you can observe all of these things. Let me make sure I don't have any questions because I can't see that bar. Let's see. Do you want us to choose different areas for each visit? One visit, pick up, arrival? No. Whichever one you do for the first one, you should do for the second one so that you can see that there has been progress made for that section. That's a great question, Jackie. But again, be mindful that during the overall and during the observation, you're going to see the whole thing. So you can fill out multiple or speak to the progression or the regression of any one of the ones in green, but you pick the same one from the first time to the second time. That's a great question. So observations, you're going to do one per semester. So a fall one, a spring one. So if you haven't done your fall observations by now, you have until they get out for summer, for Christmas break. I'd suggest you not go on the very last day because that's going to be a different type of day. It's going to look different than the rest of their days because they might be doing their Christmas parties or half of the kids might be gone because they did Christmas parties or you never know. So I would just go ahead when you're having that conversation with them about scheduling a time to come and talk to them about the evaluation plan, be scheduling a time to do the observation, or y'all have the open conversation or communication for you to be able to go whatever day you choose based on their calendar. That would be up to y'all. And then you'll do one summer, and that's asterisk because not all programs have summer. But I will go ahead and let you know that the new cohort, there will be the opportunity to have a summer only program. How that's going to change external evaluation, I'm not sure yet. We haven't figured out a timeline with the State Department, but that's a conversation that we have to have with the State Department. But that's why I said there are a lot of updates with the new cohort. So I want to make sure that we just kind of introduce it and then hey, we'll let y'all know closer to, and I think what Amanda said earlier was by the time the grants are awarded, which should be by May, because we're planning to change the time frame for the grant. So it will start in August. So they'll be able to start when the school year starts. We'll have a timeline for the external evaluation process also. So site visits should be at least 2 or more. That's where I was supposed to be adding that. I could not figure out where I had a typo at. 2 or more hours. And you're going to use the NIOS observation tools. That training is mandatory, one time only. It is still open for you and you have a login if you're still a current external evaluator, to be able to go in and do a refresher. If you've previously only did observations for elementary school and now you have a middle school or a high school, there's different observation tools for the middle school and the high school and the elementary school. So if you want to go in and pull those documents or do a refresher on that, that would be great. It's open for you to be able to do that. You must use the NIOS observation tool. You are welcome to come up with additional observation tools. I strongly encourage you to come up with not a survey, but a questionnaire that you kind of talk through when you're talking to parents and teachers and students, and administrative staff of the school if you can find them. But the NIOS observation tool is the base of what you have to use. And it has to be signed and dated by you and the site director or program director, whichever one is on site for you to get the signature from. All observations must be signed, which is what I just said. Interviews should be conducted, like I just said, with the students, parents, and teachers. If you do a questionnaire, which I do suggest that you do a questionnaire, even if it's informal, not that you're just handing it to them and they're filling it out, but y'all are talking through it. Give us a copy of the questionnaire in the appendices of the final report. And if you have it ready in the evaluation plan, but at least in the final report, we need to know what's the evidence, where'd you get the data that you're talking about. And the observation must be signed and uploaded by the site coordinator, the program coordinator, site or program director incognito. So this is multiple levels of compliance that they have to go through, and they have to share this data with ALSDE and have it available for if we are monitored by the federal government. So be aware of that. It's more than just our eyes. It's more than just the grantees' eyes. And this is more than just a check the box. These are actually, we're looking for real good recommendations. We're looking for a true depiction of what's going on in the programs with the final report. Make sure. Okay. Principles to guide evaluation. There's always room for improvement, and we put this in here because we notice sometimes when we're looking at the observation data, and the State Department has noticed that every evaluation plan that not evaluation, every observation form that you fill out is fours all the way down. Well, if it's fours all the way down, then tell me the activity or whatever that you saw that backs that up. But we want to make sure that you understand that there's room for improvement. So if there's no program that's perfect. There should be things if you're spending the 2 hours plus at the program that you see that kind of is hey, y'all need to work on this. And then you give them recommendations based on that. We pulled some of the final reports, and some of the observations were really, really good. One of them talked about seeing a teacher discipline a student and that the discipline process that the teacher went through wasn't, what they thought it should be. And she gave recommendations for different things that could have happened or could, be replaced or fixed in the long run with the teacher and her discipline practices. You could say, hey, I think y'all need to have, and if you don't know specifics like, that particular person, but if it doesn't feel right to you, then it's probably not right. And that's what you're there for. We want your good instincts. So even if it's just saying, hey, this didn't look right, this didn't feel right, I didn't like the way the child responded or the teacher responded, y'all need to think about doing some discipline PD for teachers. That's a recommendation. We're looking for recommendations of that magnitude. Like tell them different steps that they can work towards to make their program better. So always room for improvement. It's okay for you to have one, twos, and threes on the observation report, but give them an accurate depiction of what happened so that we can see that and the State Department can see that and give them recommendations of things that they can do to try to help that situation. Involves or one. So everyone that we want to take your observations and your final reports, they should be able to take them and literally have a PD with their staff to talk about, hey, this is what was observed. These are some steps that I think that we should work on to try to make this better. What do y'all think? So we want to make sure that they involve the staff, but you have to give them the information for them to be able to involve the staff and promote shared leadership so that everybody can contribute to making the program better. So slow, gradual change is the most lasting. So just think about, if they had a 2 in the first year, the next year you come and you observe they're at a 3. And then the next year they might still be at a 3 or they're at a 4. They're at a 4 in there. So and we're changing students, we're changing staff. There are changes going on in the program. So it could be a back and forth for some of these things. That's okay. So the importance of the evaluation plan is that it's going to build a strong program, demonstrate program's effectiveness, provide valuable insight towards improvement, improve decision making and resource allocations. Like I said, the PD that we can do for them, technical assistance that we can provide for the grantees based on the observations and the final report that you create, and then promote and highlight the program. Give them a piece of a document that they can go and they can share with their stakeholders. They should be able to take this document. And I love that ALSD has started making them upload it for their content. And they've also have portions that say in the continuation application, what were your final reports recommendations? So make sure that you have it to where they can just, copy and paste blurbs of it, because that's what you would do with an executive summary if you were a nonprofit. You would have something to where you could hand stakeholders another piece, and we'll talk about this. I know it's in another slide, creating a brief or presentation or something like that. This should be the tool to help them tell their story. So that's the point of the evaluation. The evaluation plan is something that you're going to create with them. So you're going to have a meeting, whether that be Zoom, in person, over the phone, does not matter. Where you're going to talk about with the grantees, what are their updates, what's changed in their programs, what are their successes, what do they feel like are their failures. You're going to talk about this and figure out how to update your evaluation plan. I know we're in year 2 and year 3 of the grant, so we want to make sure that you're not just copying and pasting the same thing that you had last year. Your timeline should be different because this year is different. They're doing different activities. They have a different set of kids. They might have different staff. So your logic model is going to be the first part that's going to be developed for the evaluation plan. This should be the same logic model that's in your evaluation plan. It's the same one that you're going to work with in the final report. So it should still be included in the final report in your appendices. But the logic model is like your roadmap. So you're going to use your evaluation questions, and those should be similar to the ones, basically the same that you had last year, because you want to measure the progress. But the progress from last year's evaluation plan to now should be the same. So you want to make sure that your logic model is reflecting that. The evaluation should include the goals and objectives from the original RFA, and explaining the purpose and the goals of the evaluation. You want to lay out all the data to be collected. You want to provide a timeline for the evaluation. Remember, these things could have changed. The data that you collect could be different based on what they changed. The assessment could have changed. Their pre and post could have changed. The grade scale could have changed. There are things that could have changed in the last couple of years that they are now trying to tie into their existing goals and objectives. Goals and objectives are not going to change, but the measurements or the things, the tools that they use to, or the data sources should sometimes maybe change a little bit based on what you have access to or what you have noticed that you don't have access to. You're going to lay out all the data to be collected, all of those data sources, provide a timeline for the evaluation. Your timeline at the beginning of the grant may have started later in the year because the grant wasn't funded until Cohort 17 wasn't funded until November. So that might have been a change in your timeline. This year, you're starting in August. So that's a difference. So timelines should be different. You know, you should set out, hey, these are my observations. I'm doing observations earlier this year because last year was too late, or I'm gonna ask them for data earlier because last year I was in the wire. Like there are updates that you can make to the evaluation plan. You're gonna document the program activities and outline how the evaluation will be distributed to the stakeholders. And we talked about teachers, the school admin, could be the city council. They could have a bunch of stakeholders, parents, however, and then we've provided an evaluation template for you to use. But again, it's just a template. You can make it look a different way. You can make it look pretty or whatever. Let's go to the next one. Trying to check and make sure. Linda's, if I have questions, y'all gonna have to stop me in between the slides because I can't see the.
Will do, Erica. Yeah.
Gotcha. So these are just the pieces of the evaluation plan. And again, it has not changed. If you have any changes that you'd like to suggest, hey, have at it. Please let us know. We will take those into consideration because like I said, with the new cohort coming up, there are going to be some changes. And I don't even know all the changes that are coming with that, but there will be some changes next year. So the parts of the evaluation plan are the introduction, the background and description, the goals and objectives, which should come from the RFA, the stakeholders, the purpose, data collection and methods, what, when, how, and tools, including copies. The appendices should include the logic model, the timeline, reports, meetings, data collection, and the evaluator information and credentials. So your resume or your CV. So just further talking about the logic model, you're going to develop a comprehensive logic model. It's the first step in conducting a successful evaluation. The logic model should be based on the goals and objectives outlined in the RFA, and the evaluation questions should be developed to evaluate the program's progress on their stated goals and objectives. They should not be the same. You know, give us a little pizzazz. I know we're not in the first year, but think about this for the future. Just what are things that you feel like you can glean from the information that's available? That's the next one. Okay. So this is just an outline of the logic model. So you're going to have your goals, which is the program goals in the application. You're going to have the inputs, the resource, the staff, funding, partners, equipment, etc. All of those things could have changed from last year or 2 years ago to now. We have a lot of new staff. The funding, it could have changed. If they're a CBO, they could have gotten a additional funding source. If they're not a CBO or any of the grantees could have gotten an additional partner or in-kind funding. So that speaks to their sustainability that is in the original RFA. And then they all should have gotten new equipment. The grant is there to purchase equipment and different things to make the curriculum and the programs better. The output, the strategies and activities to achieve the goals, they could have gotten a new curriculum. They could have gotten a new assessment. They could have gotten new things to new tools to figure out how to make their program better or to teach their students better. Um, Outcome, short term, intermediate, and long term. So think about those. What you considered your short term previously might not be a short term anymore. It might be something that was achieved. So you might be to your intermediate goal. Think about that and how the long term goals have possibly shifted from the previous evaluation plan. And then performance measures, data used to access the progress of the program towards the goal. What are the performance measures? Are you using grades? Are you using assessments? What are you using? Do you have access to those same ones? What do they put in the RFA? How can those be updated? And those could be the same. And here's the timeline. So the evaluation plan to us, TPI, and it'll be, all of these things will be uploaded for us. That'll be due December 15th. And then the conflict of interest form will be due December 30th. The mid-year report and final report are tentative dates. They may change. But these are the baselines. The mid-year report, January 31st, 2025, and then the final report, September 30th, 2025. Remember, at least one site observation must be completed each semester, and these observations should be scheduled with the coordinator or program director. And remember, I said it's okay if you have the latitude with your program director or site director to not have them scheduled, but that is a conversation that you need to have ahead of time. So, my example is always that when I was a program director, my external evaluator had a copy. I had a calendar that was in Google, and they were shared, and I shared my calendar with them, so they knew when we had events or when we had um when school was out and different things like that. So they knew when they could and couldn't show up. So that's an option for them, but that's a conversation that you would have to have with them when you're talking about the evaluation plan or with your relationship building with them. And here are some of the data sources that we talked about earlier. So Easy Report, but Easy Report is not y'all's end all be all. I know we gave y'all access, and with us giving you access in a read only format, we're looking for y'all to pull these reports. And if you need help with pulling the reports, let us know. Or if you pull the report and it doesn't have any data, let us know and we'll help. But we're looking to try, when we gave y'all access, we were looking to try to take something off of the plate of the grantees. So be mindful of that. Easy Report is a source, but it's not your only source. I said earlier, we talked about Power School and what Power School gives to Easy when they talk. They only talk once a year right now. So last year's data, we got it one time. And it is mainly for the our federal 21 APR upload. We would like for it to be more comprehensive, but for right now, the State Department only gives us so much data. So when they give us, they don't give us grades. And a lot of people call us and they're looking for, oh, well, this is blank. Well, it's not going to be grades. It's going to be, did they improve? Did they stay the same? Did they decrease? So if you're looking for they increase the letter grade, they should be giving you grades themselves. Now they do have a place in these report where they can upload their own grades and they can upload reading, math, and science, but that's separate from Power School. So at this point, all of the things from Power School have been uploaded except for the GPAs. So there shouldn't be I don't have this report because it's not in Easy Report. Everything that you need to create your reports is in Easy Report. If you're still seeing blanks or you're still missing information, then you need to be contacting your grantee because they need to be providing it for you. And if they don't have it or if they're ducking your phone calls, let me know and I will let the State Department know and we will start working on their communication because this is a required part of 21st century. And again, these reports are read all the way around. So if they are not providing the information, then they're out of compliance. So, let's see. So the site coordinator and the program coordinator, they're going to be your biggest data source, whether that's a conversation with them. I used to have an external evaluator that would send me a long list of things that they needed for me to pull for them. And it always seemed like this is the longest email and this is the longest thing that I have to do for the summer. But I gave her all the information that she needed to create the final report and actually give a true depiction of my program. So she was able to take what I said with the documentation from Easy Report, with some additional files that I had to create or pull for her, and create a true depiction of my program with my final report. So you're going to use that. You're going to use surveys. You can use the surveys that are in Easy Report, but I'm telling you, the only required survey is teachers from grades 1 through 5. We do have the other surveys available in Easy Report, and they can even create an additional survey in Easy Report. So there's a parent surveys, there's student surveys, there's partner surveys, there's staff surveys, there's school teacher surveys. There's a bunch of surveys in there. And you can work with them to try to add additional survey questions or additional surveys to be sent out through Easy Report, but be mindful that they need to actually be sending them out and the parents need or whoever needs to be completing them. That's one. And you need to be able to glean something from that. So be mindful of your questions that you're asking them when you're creating the surveys. Same thing with interviews. Interviews are not going to be an Easy Report. That's going to be, like I told you, create some type of questionnaire with questions that lead towards your evaluation questions. To have an informal interview with parents when they're there. So those are data sources you can do, of course, from the observation. So you shouldn't have, and we've seen this recently, your observation data has a whole bunch of good feedback on what you saw in the program, but then there's no information that translates from the observation to your actual evaluation report, your final report. There should be some connection because all of these data sources should be feeding into you creating a great final report for your program. Again, an executive summary. They need to be able to be able to give this to people to say, hey, this is how my program did this year. They have the same thing, with the school's report card. Sometimes it's not great, and you hope that next year is better. So that's something that this should be showing, and be mindful of that. Lesson plans for whatever lesson you observed, and they don't necessarily have to give it to you that day, but they need to be able to you need to be able to tell them, hey, this is the lesson that I observed, and this is the day that I came. Can you send me a lesson plan to back up this so that I can attach it to the final report so that it's easily shown that they're working towards the lesson plans. Their lesson plans have to align with the state standard and they have to align with their objective from their original grant. So be mindful of that. We have a couple of trainings on the YouTube page about that. And we have a new lesson plan template that it's a template, so they don't have to use the exact thing, but if they use this new template, it will have all the pieces that they have to do in a checkbox form for 21st century. Pre and post test, if that's something that y'all have discussed and they're gonna give it to you, that's a benchmark assessment. That could be a data source, grades, of course. If their original RFA said grades, then they should be giving you copies of grades. And then state assessments if their original grant said it. And again, think about how GEPR is giving it to us. Number one, GEPR might not give it to us, or Power School might not give it to us until too late, which is why we're working with Amanda trying to see if we can change the deadline a little bit for it. But how are they going to get it if Power School doesn't give it to us? And at this point, do do their numbers that they used or whatever even align with with how GEPR gave it to us? Because again, increase, stay the same, decrease. That's all we get. 1, 0, -1. That's it. Did I have a question? So the appendices is going to have the logic model, a one-page visual of program progress, the timeline, 1 to 2 is going to be 1 to 2 pages. The meetings, the data collections, report due dates, dissemination of results, additional documents, the observation must have wet signatures by the site coordinator or the program director, and then surveys. You can add other sets of the appendices, but this is just the base of what we're looking for. And then how are you going to use the results? Are they going to give it to stakeholders? Are they going to have a staff meeting with their staff so they can discuss it internally and try to, like I said earlier, have a meeting where they can try to go and figure out how to make their program better and how to work with the recommendations that you gave them. Are they going to have an advisory board meeting? Because that's something that they have to do. So that's a good reminder to give them, hey, have a meeting where you discuss your final report. Um, or other stakeholders. When are they going to talk about it? I said earlier, if they want to take it to the school board and give it to the superintendent, or if they want to give it to the city council person because the city council person wants to donate to their program or wants to give them, something or recognize them. That's a good way that this report should be used. It should not just be a document that's a check the box. It should be something that's living, breathing that they can use and it can help their program to be better. What methods will be the best to share the report? Should they do a written report? Should they give the whole report to them? Should they have a brief that's just a 2-pager to give information about it in a cute graphic form? Should they have a meeting? What are good ways that they can use this report? And this is a good part of the conversation that you can have with them to try to build the relationship and try to help the program. Will and how will feedback be solicited from stakeholders? Do the stakeholders have ideas on recommendations for their program also, or ways that they can make the program better? And then that should be 2 to 3 paragraphs. And then let me see. This is just the website that you'll upload the evaluation templates to. So remember, we upload everything into Qualtrics and then we pull it. But one thing I think I did show, let me see if I can pull that earlier. Make sure y'all can see that screen. All right, perfect. Um, the title of the file. Every time I'm going to give you how I want the file name because when we're exporting all of these into a folder for all of us to have access to, if you don't have the name of the document correct, we have a tough time figuring out whose report it is. And we end up having to open up 20 of these to find it. And that's a lot of space on our computers at one time. So we want you to call it 2024-25, the grantee name, school site name, evaluation plan. Final report will be that same way. 24-25, grantee name, bread center, school name, school name or no dash, you don't have to put a dash in there. I just want this information. School name, Glen Iris, evaluation plan. Make sure you give us that so we can easily identify because we're not only exporting this into a big file. At some points, I might be sharing it with different TAs so that they can have it when they're. I might get a phone call from somebody that's on the site. Hey, can you send me this right quick? Or hey, can you look in their final report and tell me what this person said? I need that information. Or I need it at hand. I don't need to be kind of fumbling to find it. Let's see. Okay. Okay. All right, mid-year report template. Linda Williams is gonna start, and I'm gonna drink some water.
Thank you, Erica. Good evening, everyone. So glad to see you all this afternoon. If you all have any questions for Erica or for me, or Linda Dean or myself, please make sure that you put it in the chat box. I am going to start with the mid-year report. On this particular screen, if you click on the mid-year report, now, as Erica stated earlier, the mid-year report is a template that we're currently working on. We're going to update that very, very, very soon. And even as she was speaking, an idea popped in my head how I can create yet a new and improved mid-year report, something a little bit different from what they worked on last year. But it's extremely important that we discuss the mid-year report because you are a part of this process. So Erica, you can hit the slide. Oh, can I hit the slide? Okay, I can. We're back to the final report. We know that the final report is the written report that is the culmination of all the evaluation activities. Your final report was due on September the 30th, and it's going to be September the 30th of 2025 as well. And so I think Erica has pretty much talked to you all about the final report, but I want you to keep in mind that the final report is a combination of everything from the school year to the summer. This document including your observation, every document must be signed by both the site coordinator or the coordinators, like or the program director and yourself as well, because it's one of the questions that was asked in this morning session was, were we supposed to sign this document, the observation document? And the answer, of course, is yes. Make sure that your final report includes both the quantitative and qualitative data. It's extremely important, including the strengths and weaknesses. And as I said earlier, she has already gone over this, so I'm going to zoom past this if you all don't mind. Oh, she has control of the PowerPoint. Okay. Make sure you communicate your needs with the grantees. About the final report. The final report, with the new GEPRA standards in it, and I've seen and we've received from this past year final reports. There's a lot of NAs. Now, if it's not applicable and you cannot find that information, that's one thing. But as far as GEPRA is concerned, GEPRA should have been either looked at in Easy Report, or you should have asked the coordinator or this program director. If you don't have that information, you need to do a revision or your final reports. So I'm going to be sending out notices next week, whether or not you need to do a revision on your final report. Because with the NAs, you're going to have to create, a good rapport with your site coordinator and your program director, so that when you ask them for information, they're familiar with you, they're comfortable with you, and they don't mind doing what you ask them to do. And make sure that you know how to get something with honey versus getting something with vinegar. And so it's just a matter of being nice, asking for their help, because you need it in order to do this final report, as well as the mid-year report and the evaluation plan. First of all, if you need help, if you need any type of help from TPI, if we can assist you with pulling down the data from Easy Report, if we can assist with getting in contact with the site coordinator, the program director, we can do that. So make sure, if you all are having difficulties out there, we don't know until you call us or email us. And therefore, when you do, we're able to assist you in this process. Now, one thing that you all asked for last year was some samples of final reports. So what Erica has done is created a Dropbox and put some of the but final reports that you all have created from this past year. Some that we thought were exceptional, some of the reviews that we read, some of the recommendations, some of the findings, and how you communicated with the sites. They were pretty good. I felt like it was a well-written final report. Now, everybody final report is not in here. These are just samples. So what I'm going to do is to create a link. Just give me some time so that you can go in to this particular site and look at the samples that we have uploaded, that you all can share ideas also in this particular site. Because one of the external evaluators from this morning wanted to collaborate, wanted a way that you all can connect with one another, to share ideas or piggyback off of one another. So that's, to me, sounded like a great idea. If you're interested, please join them or us, because Erica also is going to set aside some time, it's called office time, where you can ask, some questions about anything, any and everything that you may have, maybe scratching your head about, or may have no idea on how to do. So we're here to assist you in that process. But on this particular website, I think Erica has control of this, but when you click on it, it will take you, let me see. There it is. Thank you, Erica. Do you see the samples that we have listed? There's some sample of some final reports. And Erica and I was on the phone. We're reading different grantees, and we're reading and we're discussing between the two of us. Oh, this is really good. I like the recommendation they left here. Oh, look what they found here. So this gives you an idea of what other writers like yourself, your colleagues, are writing from the sites that they have an opportunity to go and visit. So this will give you some ideas. Now, we don't want you to copy because everybody is unique and every school is unique. So therefore, but it gives you an idea of how another person thinks, how another person writes. Not that you don't have your own expertise, because you do. Everybody, and I do mean everybody, writes different. So, but we just want to give you a sample of what's out there and how you can get in touch with some of these people who are actually out there uh, forming a relationship with the grantees, and how they get along with their grantees, and how they come up with the final report, and how they come up with their findings and recommendations. These are just suggestions. So I'm going to send you a link. Um, just give me until next week to get it together so that I can get all the email and information that I need to share this link with you all. But are there any questions before I go on about this box? It's a drop box.
I just want to make sure to say, so when you get ready to, when you go into this link, it's going to ask you two things. Are you a part of Auburn or are you not a part of Auburn? So when you check, no, I'm not a part of Auburn, you have to have a box login. You do not have to have an Auburn login, but you have to have a
Yeah,
box
bubble box.
login
Mhm.
to access this.
Now, Dr. Bird asks a question, is the given final report template going to remain the same until September the 10th, 2025? Now, right now we have a template in place, Dr. Bird. Sometimes we tweak that template, but we always give you a sample way before September or even August or July for that matter. We try to make sure you get that template either by May or April. So, but for now, maybe a little tweaking, not too much, because we got some new updates, but we'll
Right.
talk about that in a few minutes, okay?
It won't be anything major to where you
No,
can't go ahead and
no.
start working on the sections. Um, if anything, it'll just be if the State Department has changed some requirements for the
Yes.
grantees or something that we realize, hey, they can't get this. How can we replace this with another thing? Like I said about the Gimper sub, I'm trying to figure out how we can potentially dial that back in the final report because y'all aren't going to have access by the deadline, or working with Amanda to see if we can change the deadline in some way.
Yeah, it's two different programs that are trying to communicate. You have Easy Report and you have Power School. So there's a lot of rewriting when I talk to Billy that they have to do in order to get the two systems to talk to one another. So it's a lot on their end. So the data is not going to be there on time, even though we would like for it to be, but right now it's not. So just like I said earlier, if you all have in your past 2023, 24 final report, if there is any revision that needs to be done, you don't have to wait on me. You know the email is coming, but you don't have to wait till you get it from me. If you have some NAs in there, and because now the information is available in Easy Report, it's available in Easy Report, but Easy Report, as we stated, that's not your only source. Make sure you establish a very good relationship with the program director, or with even the principal, or even the counselor, where you can get information from. And that's going to be your support group. That's a part of your stakeholders. It's not just the program director, but the principal, even the superintendent, because Erica mentioned the superintendent as well. Okay, Erica, I'm ready to go to the next slide.
Okay, I'll speak to this.
Yes, but
Um,
before you go into that, Erica, please, we're gonna do another professional development on mid-year report, correct?
yes,
Yes, thank you.
yes, that'll be open for the because we need to do some more explaining for the mid-year. I wrote a note earlier today that for the action report, action plan part of it, we need more directions on that sheet so that it is clear. So yes, we'll do another training on that. We're gonna try
Oh,
to,
great.
before y'all have all the deadlines, try to have some type of touch points. So it's not just y'all sending us emails, and please welcome the email. We welcome the emails and the phone calls, but we want y'all to kind of get together so y'all can see it's not a no man on the island thing. A lot of y'all have the same question. So no big issues. Earlier today, like I said, ALSD staff was on and they spoke to
Mhm.
some of the updates for 21st century. So once I hear it from them, I know what to kind of give y'all. So the biggest thing, and I told you earlier that the timeline is changing for the cohorts. The RFA is being routed now. We've already had 3 different RFA informational meetings. One was just this past Monday, and they're on the YouTube page right now to kind of talk to the pieces of the grant. Um, but it has not been finalized yet. So the hope is that it's going to be available within November, by the end of November, and then the timeline for it is that it's going to be due, I think, sometime in January. So once it's due in January, the timeline is kind of sped up by a couple of months so that they will have training this summer and they'll be required to go to mega conference. So that'll be a good place if you want to hear some of the same 21st century stuff. And then they will, because Mega Conference is going to have a lot more 21st century trainings in it. And then they'll be able to start their grant in August. So for cohort 16, there, I think we originally said that there were going to be a 2-year extension. There is not going to be a 2-year extension. They will have to reapply to be a part of cohort 26. But once they get the cohort 26 grant, that is a 5-year grant. So that'll be a 5-year grant. And then the next RFA that comes out next year, which will be cohort 27, will be a 4-year grant, is the hope. So then when they have to be renewed, and I think they have renewability with them. So they might be able to be extended. I want to say the max is 3 years, and then they'll all kind of go at the same time. So it's the landscape of 21st century in Alabama is changing. The deadlines are changing, the timeline is changing, the budget changed. That's a good thing for 21st century programs. The max that is allowed for them to write for is 500,000. You know, right now it's 200,000. So that more than doubles the amount, but they are going to be more tied to the number per student. So the per student per hour amount is $6. So if you do those calculations, that kind of lets you know how much a grantee will be available. So I would be thinking about, because my mind will go ahead. My mind would say, well, okay, well, this program I already service has X number of students, and they offer programming this amount of times per the school year, which is if it's an elementary school, then they're doing Monday through Friday. But are they doing 2 hours in the afternoon or are they doing 3 hours in the afternoon? Because those things are going to change the amount that they're able to be request. So with that, that will change the amount that external evaluators are can request. And so you can ask for up to 3% of the budget. Amanda did make a point to say that, you know, if this is a $500,000 grant versus a $200,000 grant, a $500,000 grant might have more requirements on the external evaluator if they're asking for 3% versus an external evaluator who is getting $100,000, because there's also the update that there will be summer only applications available. So they can apply for, it'll kind of be 3 different varieties. They can apply for summer only, they can apply for school year only, or they can apply for an all year program. So they could, then they, you know, most of our programs now do school year and then summer. So they can apply for essentially 3 different varieties of program of 21st century programs through this new regulations and new RFA. So those are majority of the changes that are implemented. I do not have a timeline of when the mid-year report, final report, evaluation plan will be due, but after this initial training earlier today, Amanda kind of recognized, hey, we need to get together and start kind of thinking about dates and such to go along with the evaluation plan. So that should be by the time they are awarded the funds, we should have a better idea of the dates for those. And someone emailed me and asked, well, how do we get grantees to learn about us? And I would say my first thing is to create a good report and have a good relationship with your grantees. Because when we're in these meetings, we do say, hey, if you have a good external evaluator and they create a good report, you stand up, and we allow the grantees to go and talk to those people. We're not going to tell them, hey, you should use this person. That's a conflict of interest for us. But the grantees can speak to, the type of report that you create, the relationships, how many observations you came, how easy it was to deal with you and communicating with you, and if you pulled your stuff from Easy Report, they can speak to that. So be mindful of the way you talk to your grantees. Be mindful, this is a two-way street in a relationship that should be built with them. They don't have to use you. And on the flip side, you don't have to keep contracting with them. The 1 year contract that we tell y'all to do and the grantees to do, that's not just to protect the grantees, that's to protect you. We had an external evaluator recently who said, hey, I had too much of an issue trying to get all the documentation that I needed to create a good report. I don't want to deal with them anymore. And so he stopped the contract with that grantee. And now they're looking for another external evaluator. So that's the first way that you will get your name out there to be an external evaluator for other 21st centuries. I do have a list on the website, and I do provide it to all the grantees with everybody's name and contact information to the grantees, but they have the latitude to choose someone else. They can choose just someone that they heard of or someone that they found on a website. Another way that some of the grantees have been able to find certain external evaluators is they come to the conferences that they're at. So like I'm saying, mega conference is going to be a required training for the 21st century grantees. That's where they can see you. That's where you can have a conversation with them to talk about how you could make their program better or create a relationship with them to be their external evaluator. They are required to go to the ACEA conference, which will be in February. It's going to be the week before Mardi Gras in Mobile. That's another one that if you want information about it, the registration stuff is coming out this week. So just shoot me an email and I'll send it to you, or ask your grantees because they should have it by tomorrow. But those are ways, and that's also where you could be learning about 21st century stuff, 21st century regulations, 21st century mandates that they have to do, because they have a lot of things to do. And that's why we try to make this process as simple as we can, or as simple as we try. We really do. Because the grantees have a lot of things that they have to do for compliance, for everyday things, and they have to have all of the documentation in place to prove why they did XYZ. So those are pretty much the updates. I mentioned earlier today that it could be coming that and it's not coming this year, but it could be coming in the next year because Amanda liked the idea of that. When you're talking about increasing funding, we might be potentially asking you for a budget for your evaluation. Because in the past, we've had people who decide they want to be someone's external evaluator. And then once they start, or once they talk to other external evaluators and realize, oh, well, this person is getting 3% of 200,000 and I'm only getting 3% of 90,000, and I'm doing the same amount of work and I have to do this many visits and whatever. And so they decide, oh, well, I don't want to do it and I want to quit in the middle of it. So at that point, they have done a fall observation, they've done an evaluation plan, you've paid them half the money, and now you have to try to find another external evaluator to do a second observation and to finish the final report, which is not easy to do. So a budget is something, it's not required at this time, but it is something that when someone contacts you about being their external evaluator, you should be thinking about a budget. How much time is it going to take you to get to the site? If it's 2 hours away or an hour away or 4 hours away, because Alabama is pretty large, how is that going to be reflective of the 3% of the budget, or however much you contracted to made an agreement with them to do the evaluation process for? So making a budget is a good place to start. How much are you gonna have in travel? Is it gonna require overnight travel? How much time is it gonna take you to create these? How much time should you be budgeting to talk to your grantees or communicate with your grantees on a regular basis? all of those things need to be taken into consideration when you are deciding to be an external evaluator or continuing to be an external evaluator. Linda, Dan, you ready to talk about the website?
Yeah, thank you so much. And just to reiterate some of the things that Erica and Linda mentioned earlier, I think it's exciting that we're having these changes taking place. I think the grants are going to be, the grant funding is going to be available earlier in the academic year than it has been in the past. So I think I'm excited about the changes. And with the RFA deadline being proposed as the end of January, that means sites will get their funding sooner. So those are good things. Also pertaining to easy reports, as external evaluators, you all now have access to read only in easy reports. I encourage you to explore it a little bit, click on some of those reports and just see what type of information you can generate from those reports. There's something also called Report Wizard. You can sort of custom design exactly what you want using Report Wizard. So explore it a little bit. Also, you might, in your communications with your sites, as Erica mentioned, the teacher survey is required for grades 1 through 5, but there are other types of surveys already in those, already in easy reports. And maybe your sites can ask for their partners to complete a survey and learn from that. And this information would also probably fold nicely into your final reports. So all of that aside, take a good look at the website that's on the screen right now, www.alabama21cclc.org. Put that in your favorites so that you can access it easily, because your document, the necessary documents, the templates and so forth, are either already there or are going to be there. So you'll need to be able to get to that website, click on the hamburger at the top, and then external, it's up in the top right-hand corner, and then the external evaluator. So just be sure that you know that that is there for you. Explore that website also. Take a look at some of the other things, the YouTube videos, the resources. This can be a good source of information for you, but particularly when you're looking for those templates that you're supposed to be completing, this might be your first go-to place rather than sending Linda Williams or me or Erica an email say, I can't find where I've stashed my template, and you might have stashed it on your own desktop somewhere. But look first at the 21st Century website and see if that document that you need, the template that you need, is already there. As Erica and Linda said, there will be updates, additional informational meetings, office hours. Look for those. Right now, we've been communicating very frequently with the 21st Century sites, encouraging them to get their data, doing data checks for last year, since there's about to be a major upload into 21 APR. But we have also been encouraging them to look at their data for the current year and to flag, and we will repeatedly encourage them to flag this year's enrollment to make sure all their students, as students enroll, that they are flagged in PowerSchool to make things go smoothly when you're getting ready to prepare your evaluation for next year. So we're communicating with the sites about that, and most of the sites are following through really nicely. So, okay. Communicate your needs with the grantee. All right. So, oh yeah, uh, don't just get. They're very busy people. So sort of look at your template and figure out what you're going to need, and give them a little lead time. If you're going to need something from them that you cannot access yourself, then give them a little lead time to gather it for you. Uh, and if they can't figure out how to get the information that you can't get and they can't get, they can always call us, and we can help them too. And there is all of our contact information. And at the bottom there, you'll see the new program director for 21st Century. I think she's been with 21st Century maybe 2 months. She's very personable, Amanda Rollant. So you can also communicate with her about your questions, particularly pertaining to the new RFA. She will be your go-to person on that.
So that's all we have, y'all. We tried to make it a little quicker than the second meeting is always quicker than the first meeting. I will let y'all get the opportunity to unmute once I figure out where that button is. So all of my stuff is shifted. And ask questions. Y'all can also ask questions in the chat box. But I wanted to be mindful of your time. So yes, y'all should be able to unmute if you have questions or comments. But this is our contact information. I want to leave that screen up because I know it's information that y'all might need. If you're not on my or on our email distribution list, shoot me or Linda Williams an email. Normally Linda Williams sends emails to the external evaluators and I send emails to the grantees. Those two lists do not generally combined. Like I don't generally put external evaluators on my weekly grantee listserv just because it's a lot of information that has nothing to do with external evaluation. But any PD that the grantees do that we do virtually is always going to be on the website. The PowerPoints for ones that we don't do virtually will be on the website. And even the one of the most recent ones, we had a CBO training. Alicia actually went back and recorded herself walking through the training. So we have a lot of information, a wealth of information on our website. And honestly, that comes from a recommendation from Alabama 21st Century External Evaluator, which is Troy University, that said that if we have the virtual information, hey, do we have a clearinghouse to have the data? And so we started, I had to figure out how to post it. And the best way to post a lot of information or a lot of recordings is on YouTube. So we have a YouTube channel where we put all of our information. It makes it really, open for anybody to access, which I like because we're a federally funded program. So yeah, if you want to know something, either check on the YouTube page or on our website, or feel free to contact me or Linda Dan or Linda Williams if you have questions. If you have questions about the upcoming RFA, Amanda's email is on there. And there's a calendar on our website that has all of the dates and links for the upcoming trainings because all of the RFA informationals will be virtual. So there'll be RFA informationals. There will be an EGAP training for people to learn how to log into EGAP if they want to apply. So if y'all know people who want to apply for 21st Century, if you know people who want to be peer reviewers for the grants, it can't be y'all, but y'all might know other people. They can contact me because that's another thing that our office does the training for, and we do the payment process for it. And all of the dates for the RFA, yeah, they're in the calendar. If you go to the homepage and then just keep scrolling, the calendar pops up. So let me know if y'all have questions. Feel free to contact us later. We are going to try to come up with some type of way. I don't know what type of whatever we'll figure out, but some way that we can have some area or availability for y'all to network with each other. But the first one is gonna be, we're gonna have an office hours where y'all can just come ask us questions and share information with each other. And those are not gonna be mandatory, but we will send out recordings to them later for people who can't go. But if nobody joins, there's not gonna be any answers to be given. So I'm not just gonna talk to a screen just cause. So since y'all don't have any questions, y'all have a good one.
Hey,
Let us
Erica, before
go
we
ahead.
leave, since I called on Judy Manning and she was not in this morning meeting because she said she did not sign up, and I trust her word, but I wanted her to speak this evening if she doesn't mind. It's gonna kill me.
I don't know which one you're on, Judy. You have two. She's quiet. She's gonna call afterwards.
She is. I'm not answering her calls, but we have enjoyed you all this evening. You all, oh, she's unmuted.
Hey, I'm on.
We're asking for your questions and comments now so everybody else can learn from them.
Well, I don't know what y'all said this morning. What was the discussion?
Same thing. It was the same PowerPoint. It was just when we asked for questions and comments at the end.
I think one thing that I've learned in all these years, I've been with 21st Century as an external evaluator now forever, is the rapport that we as external evaluators establish with our grantees makes all the difference in the world. You know, that I'm not sucking up to anybody. I'm not being cocky. I don't have to work. I love working with the after school program and with my grantees. Some I've been with 9, 12 something years. So I know if somebody had a baby, if somebody's nephew is in a wreck, I know who did what, that we're not, you know, sugarcoating anything, but they know to begin with. And I have a list that says, okay, these are the things that I am going to have from you. If you don't give that to me, I cannot write your final report. We go over it every time I make a site visit. I send it to them, and still occasionally you'll get to the midsummer and you still don't get it. And so, but they understand I care for them. I'm compassionate. I know they have schedules. They can't always meet it. I have all sorts of things going on also, but I think it's respect for you as an external evaluator that you're hired by them. They're paying our salary, but they have to do their part. We have to do ours, and to be kind and understanding to them, but firm when we get down to the date that something's due. So that's my preaching for tonight.
Thank you, Judy. That's a good one.
Hey,
Thank
Erica,
you,
this is
Judy.
Miguel. Real quick, will we get will both of the videos be posted to YouTube, the one tonight and the one in this morning?
I will post them both if y'all want both. It's the same PowerPoint.
It was okay.
I just might have said something in a different order, but I
Okay.
tried to say the same things for both. But I will post both if y'all want them. Mm-hmm.
You just said it went longer, so I didn't know if they may have had some additional discussions or something. That's okay.
The ALSD staff, so I'll post both, and y'all can choose which one they were maybe 15 minutes or so, and I had a extra time in the beginning where I just kind of held off for people to get on. So
Okay, cool.
Yeah, I'll post both.
Thank you.
No problem. All right. If nothing else, y'all have a good one. I hear my son downstairs.